Kia ora, hello, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Cyclone Alfred update for Wednesday, and it's still Category 2 at the time that we recorded this anyway, and the tracking from the Bureau of Meteorology and other forecasters suggests not a lot of weakening or change happening over the next 24 to 36 hours as Alfred moves closer and closer to Queensland and New South Wales, and in particular the Brisbane area. Here is the current setup. This morning, Category 2, heaviest rain still in the southwest quadrant of the storm, and that is the part that is clearly moving in towards land over the next day. Here's the infrared satellite of it. It's still pretty messy, as we were talking about yesterday. The top half of it has lost the moisture. So most of that wet weather is in the southern part of it and the western side of it. And unfortunately, of course, that's the part that's moving inland. That's the part that's going to be moving in. Already the rain showers have been moving in, strong gusts. Those gusts get even stronger today and the rain becomes even heavier, especially going into tomorrow, although heavy rain could easily be around today as well. Here is the current track of Alfred. Now, it's had a bit of a strange journey, tracking southeastwards. That's the normal part, but then stopping, curving around, even moving back northwards again for a time, dropping a little southwards. And notice the direction here. It's actually moving northwestwards, moving back uphill, if you like, although clearly it's not. So moving northwestwards, moving up back towards where the original tracking was, around Maroochydore the other day. But now see, it's dropped a wee bit more and comes in directly over the top of Brisbane City. Other computer modelling shows it a little further south, a couple show it a little further north. So it's pretty safe to say that Brisbane is in the firing line, and a lot of the worst weather may be south of the centre of this storm, which is why you're seeing such a large area being lit up here, but there could be heavy rain moving further inland over the days ahead. But the initial warnings, they go from basically Tin Can Bay down here to about Grafton. That's the main risk zone in here, and the further north you go, the rainfall tapers off and the wind tapers off a wee bit. Let's start off with the wave heights. This is the most widespread part of Alfred. So you can see here in the colour shading, as it was this morning, you're talking 8-9 metre waves, some of them going above 10 metres. This is a very big system, and the problem for coastal erosion from Sydney here all the way up to Brisbane, large part of Australia's eastern seaboard, is going to be hammered day after day with these giant waves, and obviously the strong winds coming through over Thursday will do even more damage to those coastal areas. A very, very rough couple of days coming up. So let's animate this. You see how long it takes on the time here going through the next few days. Those swells, those big waves just carry on, and it takes through till about Friday or Saturday before you start to see conditions easing back a wee bit. And even then, you're still left with these very large waves of 4 metres or even larger going in towards the Saturday night period. So worth noting that. You can get more maps from predictwind.com. So let's get into the flood risks. This is the Gold Coast here, and I just wanted to show you this because there are 3 types of floods that we get from these sorts of cyclones. You've got the coastal inundation. That's when the sea comes up above where it should do, floods estuaries. It's very calm quite often, and you see the water going inland above where it normally goes. Then you have local flooding. That's when you've got a big downpour right over your house or your suburb or wherever you live, and the street floods or your backyard floods. And then you've got the biggest one, the large-scale catchment flooding, which starts in the hinterland. It starts in the hills, like the Hines Dam here, just outside of Gold Coast, or in the Gold Coast area. So the catchment, all the rain fills up, and this is already 99.3% full, so it's not going to take much for it to spill over and drain out. And so then you worry about the other 2 things happening at the same time. So that's the worst case scenario, where you have this large scale flooding moving downstream, moving down the rivers to the coast, and then blocked at the coast by the coastal inundation, the storm surge coming in. So that's the reason why there's a lot of talk about flooding. Now, the precise track of the cyclone makes a difference to the coastal inundation. That's typically only around the very center of the storm, out by maybe 100 kilometers or so from that. But the local flooding and the large scale flooding, as it spreads down from the hinterland down to the plains, to these low-lying estuaries, and where a lot of people live in those canal areas, that is the big concern. And obviously it's not just the Gold Coast, but it spreads all the way down into the northern rivers and even further down, depending on the exact tracking of that storm. But there are flooding risks. They are quite widespread. So please do stay up to date with the Bureau of Meteorology. They're going to be issuing the most detailed warnings about rainfall than anyone else with Alfred. Let's have a look at the rainfall to Sunday. This is ECMWF. We can show it to you as it builds up and moves in. So these are areas from basically Maroochydore down to places like Port Macquarie, even getting further down to Newcastle, getting that very heavy rain in the blue, 300 millimetres or more for those places in that zone. The good news is rain comes further inland for the dry areas that really want it. So there's some good news here, but the black line on this map, that is the dividing range of the hills, which means all the wet weather that falls east of that line drains eastwards. And so the heaviest rain is on this eastern side. That means all that rainwater will be draining back to the sea at some point. So that's the reason why this is the main flood risk zone in that blue. Let's have a look now at the winds, because these are going to be building up a lot more over the next day or so. You can see here in the sort of blue-purple shading, these are the strongest winds in the southwest quadrant of the cyclone, and that is taking you up over 130 k's an hour as that starts to move in with very windy conditions all the way along the coastline. In fact, New South Wales may be more exposed to the windy weather to begin with as the storm comes in. Now, as we go through to 10 o'clock in the morning Thursday, this is Queensland time, you can see the eye of the storm here, or the centre of the storm, directly east of Brisbane. The worst winds are coming through here as a southeasterly or even a southerly coming in. So the southerly may not be too bad in some areas, but the southeasterly, that could be quite wild coming straight off the sea with nothing to slow it down. Now let's have a look at when the peak winds might be. This is just an estimate at this stage. 1 o'clock in the morning Friday, plus or minus a few hours. So what we're seeing is just before the centre of the storm comes in, where the winds are calm, you have the worst winds of it here, and there's a bit of a squeeze effect going on as it runs into the land and other things happening there. That could squeeze the wind up. So really, Byron Bay could be smack bang in some of the worst of these winds based on the current modelling, and further down toward Evans Head. These are the areas that could be very windy, and of course, moving further up to Murwillumbah, that could be another area that could be seeing it, and Mullumbimby, you could be seeing some of these big strong winds coming through. Hope I've said the names properly. And those big gusts also go further inland to higher elevation areas along the hilltops, along the ranges here as the cyclone comes in. This is how we think it'll be, 7 o'clock in the morning on Friday. As far as landfall is concerned, that's when the centre of the middle of the middle, basically, moves over land. Now that changes based on the different computer modelling you're looking at. It has shifted out now to 7 o'clock in the morning Friday, again, plus or minus a few hours, 3 or 4 hours. These cyclones can sometimes speed up a bit or slow down a bit, and that can make a 6-hour difference. It's not like a plane coming into land where you can sort of pinpoint it to the minute. These can take a few hours longer or faster than the computer modelling suggests. So at the moment, you'd be looking here at a sort of a sunrise or just after sunrise arrival of the cyclone, with the strongest winds and rain going all the way down into New South Wales. GFS modelling, so that was the ECM one. Here is the American modelling. They're showing it coming in an hour or so earlier than the European modelling. So again, Friday morning looks to be about the time, but we will certainly update that for you on Thursday in our Thursday afternoon video. We're going to be producing it a little bit later tomorrow, Thursday, probably more out around sort of late morning or early afternoon for you in Queensland as we track this storm coming in. But all that very heavy rain coming to those areas I just mentioned before, Murwillumbah and Mullumbimby could be seeing that very heavy rain down to Lismore as well. Those are the areas with the big catchment where the rain can fall on the hills and then really cause issues in the rivers as it comes on through. Let's go through to 10 o'clock in the morning Saturday now. So this is once it's all moved through and inland. You're seeing the leftovers of it well inland there, and the heavy rain continues on. Brisbane, down past Surfers Paradise, through the Gold Coast, down into New South Wales, still getting that very heavy rain. So watch out around the hills and ranges here. Excuse me, I've forgotten the name of them. But in that area there that separates Queensland and New South Wales, that could be a problematic area. And that heavy rain carries on all the way down to Port Macquarie. You're seeing over 100, 150 millimetres in just the 24 hours leading up to 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. And let's go to 10 o'clock Sunday now. You've got this big high over the Tasman Sea. That is helping to push the leftovers further southwards. You'll be loving the side of this map, many of you, through inland parts of the outback in New South Wales and the plains and the growing areas. Victoria, we'll have to wait and see a little bit more for you as to how much you're going to get. But you can still see heavy rain falling from Brisbane through the ranges here in that northeastern corner of New South Wales in particular. Let's have a look at the gust animation just to kind of make sense of all of this. This is the current thinking of how it's moving in over the next day or so. So it comes in pretty wide, shrinks a wee bit as far as the worst winds are concerned. And the worst of those winds look to be at this stage from south of Bundaberg, probably quite well south of Bundaberg, the worst of those winds. Certainly from Maroochydore down to about Grafton. That looks to be the main risk. But we will fine tune this further for you in our Thursday video update. Hopefully then we can be a lot more specific about the timing and which areas are worst affected by the wind, the storm surge, and then of course you've got that widespread rain on top. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for all the comments, and we'll be back again on Thursday with our next Cyclone Alfred update.